Rocio, elle est la créatrice de Hablemos SexTech, alors je ne parle pas espagnol, et donc qui est l'équivalent de SexTech For Good pour l'Amérique latine. Bon, c'est un petit peu plus grand que la France, mais un chouille. Hein. Et surtout, et aussi, elle a organisé début septembre une conférence en ligne, conférence digitale, qui s'appelle Reimagine Sexuality, où elle a fait un travail absolument formidable de réunir des dizaines d'experts de la sextech de partout dans le monde pour intervenir et pour parler de la sextech, de leur projet. Elle m'a donné l'opportunité, avec mon très mauvais anglais, de parler de ce qu'on faisait ici en France. Donc ma conf n'est pas la mieux à regarder, mais par contre c'était une vraie chance de créer des passerelles entre notre écosystème et ce qu'elle fait en Amérique latine, et elle habite aussi aux États-Unis, et de partager son expérience. J'ai écrit ma question en anglais parce qu'elle la connaît, hein, mais c'est pour vous. Elle va s'exprimer en anglais ou en franglais, comme moi. Mais voilà, c'est vraiment une chance parce qu'on a besoin d'avoir cette vision internationale. Je vois aussi beaucoup de porteurs de projets. Quand on avait fait la conférence et le webinaire sur le financement, on a eu aussi beaucoup d'investisseurs qui nous ont dit oui, mais les projets, ce qu'on voit, manque un peu d'innovation techno. Et il manque aussi souvent les projets qu'on voit en France de cette vision internationale, de cette scalabilité. Voilà. Mais c'est vrai qu'on n'a pas forcément toujours cette culture. Et voilà, et je trouve que c'est intéressant d'avoir quelqu'un qui a vraiment cette vision-là. Est-ce que tu veux te dire la question, Manon, parce que tu as un meilleur anglais que moi?
Je n'ai pas spécialement un meilleur accent.
Ouais, mais voilà.
Clairement pas.
Et en gros, je voulais la faire en français avant, même si je la connaissais. C'était voilà, avec tous ces témoignages qu'elle a eus de ces experts à l'international, qu'est-ce qu'elle en a retiré? Tu comprends bien ce que je dis. Hein. Oui. Qu'est-ce que tu en as retiré et ta vision en fait, voilà, internationale de la sextech? Et est-ce qu'on doit être optimiste pour la suite, comme on a commencé à l'être ce soir?
Thank you for having me. And I wanted to see the innovations out of France firsthand. France is very close to my heart. I lived in France for a while, so c'est comme ça que je peux parler un petit peu. Going global, first of all, I have to tell you, I've been in technology for over 25 years. I've worked big corporations globally. About 8-9 years ago, I started working with startups, and I saw a lot of people doing sex stuff. That's what I called it. And I thought, qu'est-ce qui se passe? Qu'est-ce que c'est là? And I realized what a wonderful world was developing around sexuality. And after that, I got very involved with startups. And I looked back at my country. I'm originally from Mexico. And I looked at Latin America, and there was nothing there. But I had, at this point, connected with all the global innovators. But I looked at the leaders and I asked, where is Latin America? Where's the Spanish speakers? Where? And they looked at me and said, welcome, bienvenue. So I said, okay, I tackled Latin America with a podcast, with articles, with talking. And now for the first time ever in Spanish, sex tech was allowed in one of the biggest technology conferences in Mexico. I was able to speak there, and it was great. During this whole time, I'm looking at sex tech globally. I always look at business at a global scale. We have to look at things globally. We don't work in silos anymore. That's not how the countries work anymore, right? So when I looked, I thought, what's happening in business? That's how I realized I need to bring all the leaders from all the parts of the world. And I want to talk about the business of sex tech. And what's the business of sex tech? Investors, lawyers, marketing, supply chain operations, anything else under the sun that helps to run a business. And so that's what I looked at. I looked at therapists from every corner. I looked at innovations, and I brought 40 of the leading speakers together. And Christel was kind enough to join for SexTech For Good. So we basically learned a lot, but we also knew a lot. One is we all have the same problems. Banking and advertising, right? Banking and advertising is a global issue. So why not work together to solve a global issue? You know, Christel and all of you working here to get paid is great. But if we have the force of a global community, it's even greater. Also, advertising, big tech. Big tech does not like the word sex. It's like, let's try to scrub the word sex from the internet. Doesn't exist, no. Right? So that's another thing is, how do we, as a global force, now work with the big tech? Not attack, work with them. Let's work with them, let's come to the table, and let's have the right conversations. Mark Zuckerberg recently did an interview that said, we don't shadow ban.
No.
That's not true.
No. That's
He
true.
said, we slow down the posts that we think are risky. I don't know what he thinks what shadow ban is, but we have to come together on a global scale. And that's what Reimagine Sexuality did. Reimagine Sexuality brought these speakers. There were so many connections with the speakers. So people from India saying, we have this problem. You know, from South Africa, we have this problem. Places in Latin America, we have this problem. And it was all the same. The difference is our culture. It's what our culture needs, and that's the work that we're doing here. That's the work that I see you're doing here, what your culture needs. But to get the business of sex tech out, it's the same on a global scale, and I think that we need to come together as global leaders to help each other. We're seeing a lot of investments coming into sex tech. You wanted to know where the future is? Yeah. If it's optimistic? Yes, I'm optimistic.
Yes.
We are seeing a lot more interest in investors. I have been spending a lot of time the last couple of months with investors since Reimagine Sexuality came in, because I targeted non-sex tech people to come to that event. I mean, we can get together and talk. That's great. Can I do a little poll? Can I do a poll? How many are founders? Raise your hand. You have okay. How many of you work in the sex tech industry, whether marketing, production, whatever? Okay. How many of you, this is the first time you come to an event that is a sex tech event? Yes. Nice. Yes. That's what we want. We want to create more jobs, to bring in non-sex tech people and work for us and love us, because they love working for sex tech. Have you noticed that? Do you all like working in sex tech? Ever since Reimagine Sexuality, I have so many messages about how can I become a copywriter? How can I do advertising for a company? Are there any openings for the big companies that you talk to? And that's what we want. We want the non-sex techers to join us. We want our voice to amplify. So we turn around, we tell the investors, look at this. And now we have investors. We had a lot of investors attend Reimagine Sexuality because our speakers gave them the access, said, you want to learn about sex tech? Go to this. And now we have a lot of investors interested as well. So I think that we need to continue to do these events and do also like global work together, especially to solve some of the bigger problems that we need to do business locally, because it's all tied together. You know, that was my takeaway from Reimagine Sexuality.
You think we just have to found an international company?
Oui, International Association.
Okay. sounds great. Sounds great.
Yes.
And
yes.
What do you think about technology? The main technology that we can build the next big project?
I've been hearing a lot about the metaverse, right? I don't know what it's really going to bring. We have VR. We have VR. VR is developed, and so now we have more interest in VR, which is good. I mean, we do want that. I'm not sure where Meta is going for Mark Zuckerberg, but that's called VR, right? So whatever he chooses to do, what we need to do is continue down our path, and we need to look at Web3, because Web3 is more secure. Web3 is supposed to give us more safe spaces, okay, as well. So Web3, I would say, definitely is something that I have been hearing a lot in the accelerators and incubators and around the sex tech atmosphere as well. So that is something that I have seen for Web3. I'm not seeing all this exciting for Meta, but we have VR. I think InView. Yeah, she's awesome.
Kathleen Smooth, InView VR, vous avez peut-être vu, qui rejoint aussi l'association SexTech For Good, qui est basée maintenant à Barcelone et qui est sexothérapeute aussi, qui est sexologue, qui était basée en France et qui a fait beaucoup de choses. Elle a commencé par faire l'amour avec Thomas Pesquet dans les airs. Maintenant, elle fait l'amour avec l'océan. Voilà, et maintenant, elle est dans l'univers virtuel.
She just launched a VR class for couples. And there was a lot of interest for her in Reimagine Sexuality.
She's an amazing person.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm seeing a lot of artificial intelligence being used, and as well, cybersecurity remains like top priority for a lot of these things. You know, there's always going to be that issue, I think, that we have to stay on top of what cybersecurity looks like, you know.
And about the sector, because we have a lot of projects talking about sexuality and pleasure, but what about disabled people or older people? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
We see a lot older people coming in, and somebody that mentioned menopause.
Yeah.
That is, if anybody's looking to innovate somewhere, the menopause, and you might need to translate this, it's a $600 billion industry. $600 billion industry. Yeah. Why?
C'est une industrie de 60 milliards.
600. 1%,
It's a lot.
Juliette.
It's a lot.
1% de 600 milliards.
Yes. That is why, because women have higher purchasing power. Women are becoming more open to their sexuality, and they don't want to go down in the books as menopause being the end. That's over, that's old news. So that's why right now is the time to get into the menopause sexuality industry, because also if you guys are keeping up with the news of what's going on in England, they are certifying companies for menopause friendly businesses, which means women can just have a little time off to themselves and recuperate. So there is a lot of opportunity there, which is we're seeing more. We're having more conversations around ageism and sexuality as well. We're seeing that a lot more, which is a great market to get to, because who has money? The older, already worked people. I mean, that's the truth. They're willing to take care of themselves. They're willing to spend money on their sexuality to continue, because sexuality doesn't end. You're born with it, you die with it. That's what it is. So the other one is disability. We have Bumpin', which is one that is really known a lot. They've done a lot of education. Out of Latin America, we have one that came out of a university called Lila for women in disabilities.
So Bumpin' is a kind of a big sex toy, genderless big sex toys for disabled people. Mm-hmm. But for Luna, what is it?
Lila, yes. It is for disabled women that don't have hand mobility. They can control the sex toy that goes on the vulva with their foot. Okay. Yeah. So that's coming out too. So there's a lot more. On my podcast, I've had a lot of sex therapists that work with disabled people, and they are doing a lot of education around stopping this idea that folks with disabilities are asexual. or not have no sexuality, that doesn't even make sense. And it puts them in higher risk for being abused or anything like that because they're told nothing, right? So yeah, that's definitely something. And the other area that I focus on a lot, I don't know if I heard it here, is safety. So innovations around safety, whether it's apps that allow you to talk, or send SOS messages for rape, or Rapex out of South Africa as well. Those things come out of a necessity for a culture though, right? And that's when we'll see different cultures building for their own safety. And we also have that under sex tech as well. Everything is sex tech. Everything is sex. Do y'all know that femtech is sex tech? It's true. True story. So
how to make understand.
Yes, femtech. It's good that when femtech came out, it called itself femtech because it made those conservative investors comfortable with thinking that they're dealing with women issues, right? We're fixing women issues, so we're going to give them money. That's femtech. That's why they called it femtech, and it's great. I'm glad that they were able to get us where we are today. But if we're innovating for erectile dysfunction, do we have OMTech? No, it's sex tech. Why? Because they're comfortable. Investors are comfortable. If we say, oh, we're solving...
Amen.
Exactly. We're solving for erectile dysfunction, here's 300 million. So femtech is wonderful that it's there, but to me, everything is sex tech. I bring everything into sex tech. So under sex tech, I work pleasure, health, safety, relationships, and education are my pillars that we look at. So yeah, did I cover everything?
Yeah,
okay. Did I cover anything? I wish I could speak French and I could talk more. Next time, I'm gonna practice.